note the disclaimer. South Park has just always been there. There's so many clever and insightful gems in each season that it's near impossible to do an accurate top 10 list.
Cat is now under arrest and awaiting trial for it.
So, as you know, these are just my personal favorites. But with the release of Stick of Truth, I think it's time we take a look back at the top 10 best South Park episodes of all time. Number 10.
I should have never gone ziplining.
A parody of the I Shouldn't Be Alive documentaries, this is so well narrated you can genuinely believe the boys' situation is terrifying. Also, this is probably the only time we'll ever see Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny in live action.
Kenny!
Kenny McCormick has died of boredom.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny!
Oh, bastard!
And frankly, they look exactly like what you'd imagine them to look like. They act it perfectly and are ideal for the role. An example of 5 minutes of this episode is... the boys get on a boat, where Cartman defecates into the water, which attracts beavers. Kenny dies, and the boys are rescued by a piece of fecal matter. There's no great message to this one, and that's part of what makes this episode special. I honestly don't think I'd try ziplining after watching this. But apart from that, it's just a great laugh as we watch the boys make their own misadventures.
I had no idea ziplining would be so boring.
Number 9. Passion of the Jew. This episode isn't just a climactic conclusion between Cartman and Kyle and his Jewish heritage. It's an episode that takes a surprisingly deep look at the different responses people have to media and... entertainment. And Stan and Kenny going on a personal quest across the country to get their money back from Mel Gibson, as you do when you see a bad movie. Every character is just at their best in this episode in their responses to seeing the film. Cartman is being bigoted, Stan and Kenny think it stunk.
Dude, that movie sucked.
And Kyle is being guilty. An unforgettable episode and a classic well worth a watch.
We live in a rational community, and everyone knows this is just a movie. There's no cause for alarm.
Number 8. Episode 200 and Episode 201. I was hesitant to include this one due to the controversial nature of the material, but these two episodes almost demand to be included as classics. This episode is just a huge culmination of ideas and subplots from 200 episodes, all culminated into 2 massive episodes. All the celebrities join forces to sue the town of South Park. They then demand that South Park bring them the Muslim prophet. Hey, who threw that? Stan contacts the super best friends to request, hey, be shown to the celebrities in South Park. Fearful of repercussions by the Muslim community, they have to figure out a way to show that particular religious prophet to the celebrities without actually revealing him. These 2 episodes are among some of the most nail-biting, suspense-filled episodes of South Park I've ever seen. It shows the dedication of Matt Stone and Trey Parker in this series, and just how much they are prepared to risk to spread the truth as they see it, unfiltered and uncensored. But sadly, it's also a tragic episode, because we see their hard work censored. This episode wasn't just funny and thought-provoking, it was a loud statement about censorship from Matt Stone and Trey Parker. So loud that Comedy Central had to step in to censor them. This episode stirred up a ton of controversy. It's a very real cautionary tale, and 2 South Park episodes that should not be missed.
I learned something today. Throughout this whole ordeal, we've all wanted to show things that we weren't allowed to show. But it wasn't because of some magic goo. It was because of the magical power of threatening people with violence. That's obviously the only true power. If there's anything we've all learned, it's that terrorizing people works.
Number 7. Professor chaos.
Butters, time for bed.
Okay, Mom.
We start the episode with the boys emulating a surprisingly realistic job dismissal on Butters, who isn't quite fitting the mold of Kenny. This pushes Butters into a deep, dark brooding wherein his alter ego emerges. Professor Chaos! It's a very personal favourite, but Butters is just such a pleasure to watch in his endearing attempts to be bad. It really does ask the question, if a good person does decide to give up on society and become bad, what exactly would they do different? Make someone get the wrong soup order at Bennigan's? Even the boys' attempts to find a new replacement for Kenny are hilarious to watch.
Okay, next. This looks pretty good. Yeah, it's not bad.
It's a very innocent episode, really. There's no big political point or stand they're making. It's a simple, fun laugh, and well worth a watch.
It's the liberal media. They're keeping the stories of my deeds covered up so as not to cause a panic. Well then, I guess it's time to step it up a notch.
Number 6. South Park's personal commentary on internet memes. This one is purely on the list because I laughed more at it than any other episode.
Oh, Long Johnson! Oh, Long Johnson!
Internet memes is something I probably was a little too old to ever get on board with, and just the idea of planking on roofs and railroad tracks for fun is so bizarre to me. The silliness of the community arresting and then attempting to communicate with a cat are so ridiculous to watch.
Long, long day. Oh, Long Johnson. I'm not sure, but I think it said war between our species is inevitable.
They then bring it into a Republican debate, wherein the cat fits in quite well. From start to finish, you honestly have no idea where this episode is going to go. It's completely unpredictable, and more like a stream of hilarious skits than it is an episode. This episode was fairly late, and shows that the South Park creators are only getting even better 16 years later. And in this long-running a season, that is very rare.
All over the country, people are... Oh! Oh, Long John!
Number 5. Child abduction is not funny. Easily the best commentary on safety hysteria I've ever seen. This episode just shows how paranoid a community can get on fears of safety.
Well, what are we gonna do, Mayor? We have to stop these abductors from being able to get into our town!
Yes, but standing out here yelling rabble, rabble, rabble isn't going to help anything.
But we don't know what else to do, Mayor!
Some of the best skits I've seen in South Park come purely from watching the city walk owner trying to fight off the Mongolians. It's another episode where we watch the South Park community taking everything to the hilarious extremes they do.
We can't tell you because we can't know where you are!
Oh, this is terrible!
We really see the best of everyone in this episode, from Randy to City Walk to Stan to the Mongolians.
God, our pants are so stupid, dude.
It's an episode with a message that most of us have heard before, but with a light-hearted feel to it. You can be too careful, and consider what your media tells you with a pinch of salt. It's an episode with a lot of heart, but still very funny at the same time. Definitely worth a watch.
Jesus Christ, dude, they've done some stupid crap before. But Jesus Christ.
Number 4. The Super Best Friends.
Me, Dan Marsh.
Of course I know you, my child. Come in.
We all know this episode. I'd argue it was one of the episodes that set the bar so high for South Park. A flawless commentary on cults and their inherent influence and power. This episode is what I'd call your perfect South Park episode.
Get them!
Stan leaves the other South Park boys after they join a cult run by David Blaine, and it's up to Stan to save the day. It's got great representations of cults in general, and their attempts to exploit people's insecurity and get them to join into something which claims to have all the answers. Stan teams up with Jesus and the Super Best Friends to save his friends and put a stop to Blaine's evil plans.
Behold, here you can see ordinary water. Clear, clean. Okay, now turn around. Turn around. Okay, now turn back. It is now wine.
That's it? That's how you did that trick?
Well, yeah.
That trick sucks, Jesus.
Oh, I guess it worked a little better on people 2,000 years ago.
I love how the super best friends are represented. They're represented just as normal people working together to put a stop to evil cults. Each of the super best friends is a fantastic and interesting character. It's an amazing novelty to see each of the religious prophets given such distinct, believable personalities. If I ever made a religion, I'd have the religious prophets all team together like this. It'd be a religion based on love, friendship, and trust.
Everything is as it should be. Oh, shut up, Buddha.
It's really a classic superhero story. We know who the bad guys are, we know who the good guys are. We even know the message. But it's just done so flawlessly and beautifully, it's just a pleasure to watch. It's an episode I could watch 100 times and still laugh at.
Okay, now turn back.
Now, how the hell did he do that?
Number 3. The biggest douche in the universe. Season 6 of South Park hit a real high and had a lot of hot topics. We had things like Ladder to Heaven and child abduction, but I think the biggest douche in the universe easily topped them all. John Edward is just a subject made for South Park. It's hard to think of another episode which debunks a character's BS so well.
Listen very carefully. This is a trick that I am doing, okay? Watch. All I'm gonna do is say a name that I'm gonna pick at random, okay? They want me to acknowledge Pete or Peter.
Yes, my Peter!
No, stop clapping!
We also get a slew of different characters and settings, including Scotland, as Chef takes the boys to meet his parents, and try to exorcise Kenny's soul from Cartman after he drank his ashes. There's also a side plot about Carl staying in Jewish school because John Edward convinced his grandmother was watching him, and Stan has to personally go meet John Edward to debunk him, and then learn cold reading to challenge him. It's just a ton we're given in such a small time in this episode, but it all flows so well.
Okay, let's back up. Not literally!
This is easily among the most flawless South Park episodes. There's just no part of this episode I didn't enjoy. I liked Chef Parents, I liked the personal journey, I liked Stan taking down John Edward, and the ending is one of the most memorable moments in all of South Park history. I cannot recommend this particular episode enough. It's the episode you show to friends who have never seen South Park so they know just how amazing South Park can be at its best.
How does that make me a douche?
Because the big questions in life are tough. Why are we here? Where are we from? Where are we going? But if people believe in asshole douchey liars like you, we're never gonna find the real answer to those questions. You aren't just lying, you're slowing down the progress of all mankind, you douche.
I'm not a douche!
Number 2. Raisins. This is actually an episode I don't find that funny or even pleasant to watch, and those who've seen it will probably agree with me. But it's just so profound and strong in its message that it becomes more of a personal experience than nearly any other episode. This is one of those episodes that I felt grew me as a person. It's not just about relationships, but about life in general. And it does focus on my favorite character Butters just being himself in his first response to romance. We watch him fall head over heels in love, while oblivious to the fact that he's walked into the young teen equivalent of Hooters. We also watch Stan's recovery process over his breakup with Wendy. You feel Stan's heartbreak when he sees Token in the window. You feel Butters' world shattered when the Raisins girl tells him they're not in a relationship. I can't think of another episode which provokes so much raw emotion. I'm still touched at the end of this episode, and those who've seen it will know exactly what I'm talking about. Butters may only be about 8, but I find myself trying to aspire to be like him, even as an adult. Butters is the only character who is just always himself. He's uncompromising and never changes who he is for anyone, and no one can change that. This episode isn't just about being funny or even being clever. It's not even about something life-affirming. It's about teaching one of the most important lessons we ever learn. It's about how each person responds to heartbreak and how we recover from it. Whether it be closing yourself off from emotions, trying to mend the relationship, or Butters' philosophy. I cannot think of an episode that was just so much of a personal experience. This is an easy pick for number 2.
Well, thanks for offering to let me in your clique, guys. But to be honest, I'd rather be a crying little pussy than a faggy goth kid. We'll see you, Stan.
Before number 1, I want to give a couple of quick shout-outs. Mysterion and Kun. I'm a bit of a Dark Knight fan, and watching Mysterion and the other boys and their secret alter egos is just an exciting watch. We already know this is a classic though, we all do, so I left it out in favor of lesser known episodes. Night of the Living Homeless.
No! I don't have any change! I don't have any change!
Scott Tenorman Must Die. I've got to be honest, I didn't like this episode. At all. Despite this episode often being considered the best in many top 10 lists, I did not find it at all that funny. I guess you could call it black humor, so maybe I'm just a bit too butters for this episode. It just feels very vengeful and mean-spirited, and not in the clever and justified way South Park normally is. But that's just my own opinion. And now for number 1. You're Getting Old and Asperger's. Stan suddenly finds all his music his friends are listening to sounds like shit. In fact, everything starts sounding like shit. Starting with things like Adam Sandler, which I imagine already sounds like shit to anyone with an intelligence quota higher than a cheese stick.
We don't want to hang out with you anymore. Get it through your head.
This episode perfectly represents the process of isolation I've personally found a person can get from things like depression or a gradual cynicism about society.
Sucks, all my friends are sick with the flu.
Well, what can I get you?
Do you have anything on the menu that doesn't taste like shit?
A little young to be so pessimistic, aren't you, kid?
Why? There's nothing but shit on TV. Video games are all shit and the world's a big turd. The only thing that doesn't seem like total shit to me are my friends, and they're all sick.
We've all been there. I personally think one of the greatest challenges for the thinking person in society is falling into pessimism and despair. And Stan experiences that firsthand. You feel this process with him as he goes through it. And the final portion is the only time I've ever cried at anything in South Park. And from the feedback I've heard, I'm not alone on that one. This was the most emotional South Park has ever gotten. The feelings of social isolation are just so perfectly represented.
God, shut up! Everyone just shut the up!
Asperger's is a beautiful follow-up to this, with a little more humor spliced in.
All right, Stan, listen up. We don't have a lot of time. You've been told Asperger's is real. It isn't.
Wait, it's not a real illness?
Of course not. If there was a social development disease, you wouldn't call it Asperger's. That's just mean.
It's one of the most vague commentaries, though, I've seen South Park do. It's about those on the autism spectrum and the anti-vaccination craze going around the first world community. These episodes aren't just a commentary on the process of change. We are seeing the process of change, and its most despairing and challenging moments represented through Stan. I just love these 2 episodes. These 2 episodes are absolute must-sees. I could not have chosen another episode which touched my heart so much. The South Park creators have come a long way since they began this series, and this episode, we feel that emotional exhaustion right along with them. You should watch these 2 episodes at least once.
Dude, we're gonna go see the new Zookeeper movie!
Zookeeper 2! Zookeeper! Okay, coming.
From what I've heard, Matt Stone and Trey Parker would like to retire the series, but I'm personally looking forward to seeing South Park's funny and thought-provoking episodes for many years to come. I hope it keeps growing up right along with us. Got a personal favorite? Did I miss a particularly good episode? Feel free to mention it in the comments. Thanks for watching.